Hello, everyone, and welcome to session 3 on the Smart Stage. I'm joined by Johnny Martinez, Head of Marketing and Business Development at Shock Logic. He's here to talk about cybersecurity, a very important topic within our industry, especially with the explosion of virtual and hybrid events. Johnny, welcome to the Smart Stage.
Hi, Adam. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem at all. Mate, I know you've got a lot to get through. There's a lot of content in this presentation, so I'm going to hand over. The floor is yours.
Thank you. That's very kind. I'm just going to test the slides one more time. Okay, I think we are on. Hello, everyone. My name is Johnny Martinez, and I currently speak to you from the metropolis that we know as London in the UK. I have been involved with this beautiful industry since I was a teenager, and I have witnessed the incredible transformation that events have gone through in the past decade. I currently work for a company called Shock Logic, and we are passionate about improving the lives of events organizers everywhere through the use of technology. Just like that, we all became so used to using Zoom, Microsoft Teams, GoToMeeting, you name it. And we're now used to catching up with friends and colleagues online while we keep safe at home. Many people pretty much had to learn everything at once. As online users and organizers of online and hybrid events, we have to be aware that we will face challenges and vulnerabilities that we didn't know about before. So the first question to ask ourselves is, why? Why would my event be the target of a cyber attack? And this is when you have to consider the unknown. Most of us are technical people, so we have to be ready to understand that there is a lot that we just don't know. Did you know, for example, that cybercrime represents an industry of 1.5 trillion US dollars? That's a lot of money. So let's check why. If competition gets fierce in an industry, companies may decide to go after each other. This may translate into intentionally targeting the websites and servers of your rivals. And this is to destroy reputation and pick up new business. This sounds like a nasty practice, but it's very much existent today. And this is the reason why many companies keep their developers or their technical staff happy and often make them sign a non-compete clause to make sure that they don't run away with all the technology knowledge that they gathered at your organization. And this is why people keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. When we look at the big picture, what it all boils down to is fraud. These hackers and cyber criminals are little more than new age con men. And the con game is as old as time itself. People have literally been tricking one another since the beginning of time. This is the next question we ask ourselves. Consider how your type of audience may represent a risk for the event itself. This is why many events have registration processes. Registration allows organizers to vet and approve those that will have valid access to the event. If your event is free to attend or the link to the event is easily accessible from a public domain, then the level of vulnerability increases. If there are many VIPs, celebrities, or well-known speakers coming to your event, then hackers may see this as a high-profile opportunity to show what they can do. So we need to keep an eye on the who. Next is what. If the platform you're using is web-based, for example, you want to check and test all potential vulnerabilities you may face when you access the event from Chrome, Safari, Firefox, or Microsoft Edge. It's best when users don't have to download or install anything on their desktops. And this will avoid the risk of malware getting into your computer. We also need to be strategic about the amount of information that we ask our attendees to complete. We know that in most cases, we need the first name, last name, company name, job title, country, and the email address. This should be enough. In some cases, if you are a speaker, you may need the telephone number of the speakers to make sure that you can find these people quickly enough. But there's probably no need to collect dates of birth or social security numbers. We don't have to ask these questions, and this helps to keep our databases less vulnerable. And the last question is where? It's very important to ask your suppliers where the platform and data will be hosted. And this is so you can be completely transparent with all your stakeholders about your data management process. If you're hosting an event in China or you expect Chinese delegates, for example, then you need to play and test the access to make sure that this is not blocked by Chinese firewalls. This could mean investing into a VPN or a similar facility. So let's look at examples of the most common potential threats when it comes to cybersecurity. And this is really to scope out what you need to watch out for. Phishing is a type of online fraud that involves getting an individual or organization to disclose sensitive and/or compromising information using false pretenses and excuses that have been perfectly manufactured by the attackers, probably for years. Let me ask you a question. Have you recently purchased a brand new $20 iPhone 13? I haven't, and most people I know haven't either. This is because they don't exist, but this doesn't mean that you won't see it advertised somewhere online. In all likelihood, you're about to wire money to an account in a remote country. Hackers understand our behavior and we make mistakes. This is often why I double and triple check everything I buy online, and I recommend you do the same. The evolution of the internet has brought with it a number of extremely convenient advances in the way we shop, bank, and interact with the world around us. At the same time, that evolution has also given way to new risks. The internet was originally built on HTTP, or Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and when HTTP was first defined, the internet was not for commercial activity. In fact, commercial activity was illegal. The internet was mainly used by government and academia to communicate with each other. So all this communication is done via plain text, and it can be intercepted, manipulated, or stolen. In order to remedy all of this, SSL, or secure sockets layer, was developed, and it was later succeeded by TLS, which is transport layer security, and is what adds the S at the end of HTTP. So HTTPS is simply a secure version of HTTP that prevents any communication from being intercepted by anyone but you and the website that you are trying to connect to. I know that this is a lot of information, but the main thing is HTTP is bad, HTTPS is good. Never trust HTTP with your personal information. At the same time, an attacker may start by sending you a formal looking email from an address that resembles a very official account. It may say something like, an attempt to log into your account has been made from another country. Please update your password. And this happens to millions of people every day that have their email account compromised. To the untrained eye, it's almost impossible to tell the fake website from the real one. And these tactics are mainly used to steal financial information or even medical records. It is unfortunate, but with the advent of free SSL services, it is now more easier than ever to disguise phishing sites as legitimate. Let me know in the chat if you have been a victim of Zoom bombing. In March last year, for example, Chipotle was forced to end a public Zoom chat that the brand had co-hosted with a famous musician after one of the attendees started broadcasting.
Hello, guys. It looks like we have lost Johnny for a second, so we're just going to go to a quick holding slide. We're going to try and get him back in, and we'll resume. Oh, I'm just hearing in my ear that he's logging back in now, so I'll fill out for a couple of seconds. This is the real world of virtual events, I guess. These things happen. Shortly, I'm sure Johnny will rejoin us to resume. Johnny, was that a
Sorry,
cyber
guys.
attack by any chance? Or did we have a cyber attack there? I don't know. I'm going to hand back over to you, mate. I hope you can pick up where you left. These things happen.
Yes, let me just go back in the. Oh, yeah, I was talking about the Zoom bombing, so that's great. Thank you, guys. So I'm gonna move on from that, and I just wanna mention. Oh, is it going? Yes, now it is going. So I'm going to talk about malware and ransomware. So this is when things get really serious. So malware is a program engineered to infect your computer, often via the medium of a virus. And ransomware is when the virus is so effective that it hijacks the whole system. An example of this happened in January last year when a hacker used the credentials of two Marriott employees to collect data for a month before being discovered. And the breach exposed personal identifiable information of 5.2 million customers, including contact information and details like gender, birthday, and loyalty account information. Ransomware is without doubt one of the worst threats that companies face today. Data is absolutely everything, and is the gold pot that we're all searching for once we identify where the rainbow is. Handling data has quickly become a controversial topic throughout the years, and we need to find out why. Since we are so greedy, us human beings, we now have laws in place such as GDPR. The General Data Protection Regulation was introduced on the 25th of May 2018. And the main thing with GDPR is that it introduced penalties for companies that don't comply. And it's the first law of its kind to work at a regional level. And while the law covers the protection of personal data of EU citizens, its implementation affects any company or any business that deals with EU customer data. The good news is that regulators don't really audit international companies for GDPR compliance. However, if there is a proven breach involving an EU citizen, then you may need to pay a hefty fine. And this can be up to 20 million euro or 24.5 million US dollars, or 4% of the company's annual turnover, whichever is greater. This means that the potential consequences for data breaches are much bigger these days. So where is the data potentially exposed? And this is where you look at the different connections within your event structure. If you are processing data from a CRM to a CMS to a website, then it's likely that there is an API integration between these platforms. So, the data flows seamlessly and without human intervention. However, third-party integrations tend to be a very vulnerable point in the technology chain. So it's essential that we run penetration tests, risk analysis, to make sure that the ecosystem is not compromised. What about biometric authentication? So this has gained a lot of popularity in our industry in recent years. People see biometrics as a new and efficient way of improving the security for a lot of companies. But there are other people that disagree. This is when the conspiracy theorists get excited. There are many types of authentications based on biometrics. So you have the common fingertip scanning to the more innovative voice, iris, or face recognition. And many people believe that these biometric systems are impossible to compromise because data cannot be guessed and is unique to every user. So it seems like a better solution to a single factor authentication and is a perfect complement to a multi-factor authentication, but they also have their drawbacks. One major issue is that it can still be stolen or duplicated, this data, but in contrast to a password, you can't change it. You can't change your fingertips, you can't change your face. So this presents new challenges for cybersecurity professionals. And the next is defining the responsibilities. As an association or corporation, you own the data that you have in your CRM or membership management system. And you may involve third parties like agencies, PCOs, venues, and other providers. And they may require a copy of the data to be connected to the systems. This means that the data you own will now be processed by other people. And it is key to know, for example, who is responsible for removing the registration information from the platform in case there's a user that no longer wants to be associated with the database. And this is when we talk about prevention, protection. Prevention generally comes before protection, as is meant to avert the threat before it occurs. An example of prevention for business security includes, setting rules or reminders about best safety practices for cybersecurity. Protection is the next step, like an antivirus, and it usually takes over when prevention fails. So a payment gateway, for example, is the technology that captures and transfers payment data from the customer to the acquirer. And this is one of the key points in your infrastructure to watch out for, because hackers are constantly looking to collect debit or credit card information. Here, it's key to prevent by perhaps having more than one debit card or regularly checking your bank statements, but also protect by making sure the website you're accessing is actually PayPal or WorldPay or Stripe. This is when I ask you to please let me know in the comments if you use a password manager and what password managers you use. This is essentially a computer program that allows users to store, generate, and manage personal passwords for online services. And a password manager will assist you in generating and retrieving complex passwords as well, or providing them within an encrypted database. VPNs, so a virtual private network. These can give you online privacy and anonymity by creating a private network from a public internet connection. What VPNs do is that they hide your internet protocol or your IP address and make online actions untraceable. A lot of people use them to securely access their office servers, from a remote place. So it is a possibility. I recommend making sure that you have an antivirus installed in your computer and network. Pop-up ads and spam websites are one of the most used gateways by the viruses to infect your computer and then damage your files. Passwordless options are an increasingly effective choice as well. This is a unique twist on authentication, as it is a quick process for users, and it has proven to be much more secure than password-based logins. Also, check exactly how regularly data is backed up in your servers and what are the guarantees if the system suffers disconnection, as it happened to me. Make sure you educate your team and make sure that they understand the guidelines for the behaviors that are expected, not only from your team, but also from your attendees. You know, karma is a bitch. So if you're honest and generous with your stakeholders, then they will respect you and commit to any agreement that all parties had. I have, however, witnessed, you know, many angry ex-employees that steal and publish delicate information about their former employers, and this is when the drama begins. So this is the winning formula. First, educate yourselves and educate your attendees about the potential threats and how to prevent them. And as we say at ShockLogic, the next thing is to over-prepare and go with the flow. You know, this requires applying diverse cybersecurity measures from an early stage and then do lots and lots of testing. This is when I want to remind you about this phrase. When you're developing a cybersecurity strategy, don't let what you cannot do get in the way of what you can do. So, you know, I know there are things that we leave for tomorrow, things that we don't want to do today. You know, ask yourself, if not today, then when? Make sure that you have a proper cybersecurity protocol in place as soon as possible. I just want to leave some final tips to take away. So the first thing may seem very obvious, but please don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, there are things that might seem really simple, but it's important that you get into the habit of questioning regularly if your software procedures are secure enough. See what other people are saying. If people really had a bad experience, it's best to stay away from these options. You know, just do your own research and choose what's right for yourself. Browsers, you know, they are a portal to the internet. So we can only go where they take us. And my suggestion is to trust what your browser says. If it is telling you not to go to a specific page, just listen to it. And despite all the bad advice I've seen out there, never disable your antivirus or drop your firewall. Don't do that. This is the last resort, but it serves as a nice final safeguard. Google it. Literally. The Google Safe Browsing Transparency Report allows you to copy and paste the URL into a field, and it gives you a report on whether or not you can trust that website. It's not fancy, but it certainly creates an effective way to determine whether or not what you're interacting with is unsafe. The Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, states that for many phenomena, 80% of the results comes from 20% of the effort. And the principle was originally referred to the distribution of wealth, but it can be applied to absolutely everything, such as the fact that 80% of the system errors and crashes are caused by 20% of the software bugs. And you know, this is a statement that Microsoft will definitely agree with. So those are the bugs that we should avoid and the ones that we need to focus on in the long term. So I have managed to cover everything. So this is the end of my presentation. I am on LinkedIn, Twitter. It's all on screen as you see it. Happy to catch up after the presentation as well. I want to say thanks to Adam and the team behind Event Tech Live North America. Is really, really a pleasure to work with such wonderful bunch of people. Thank you.
Johnny, thank you very much for such an important presentation, I have to say. At the moment, there's lots of talk about virtual events, hybrid events. We're seeing so much of this, and also so many presentations on the value of data, but not so much the importance of security and protecting ourselves when it comes to those events and that data. And then just on a business level, right? As a company, we probably hold so much data. How are we approaching that? How are we training our staff and the people within our business to protect themselves, protect the business, act safely? It's so easy these days to have something happen that's unforeseen. I'll share an example of that. It wasn't too long ago that somebody hacked the eventindustrynews.com website, and it caused a blackout for probably the best part of 48 hours or more, and a huge amount of time and resource that we had to reinvest to kind of bring systems back and things like that. So I just wanted to personally thank you. On that, what's your favorite password manager? I have mine. I'm just interested to see what your favorite password manager is.
I have so many. If I like the one, I mean, I have an iPhone and I use
Yep,
the password manager facility that the iPhone already has.
that's keychain,
But
right?
I
Yeah.
know, yes, it is a keychain. Just to add a level of security, especially to mobile, which can be so vulnerable, because you keep a lot of information there, your pictures, your everything.
Mm.
So I use that one, but I know there are a ton available in the app stores. If people want to try a few, that's what I recommend as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Really important question from one of the attendees here, and I think this is something that I hope the industry kind of takes a more proactive approach in. So the question here is, how can some of the smaller companies ensure that their vendors, i.e. suppliers, are taking security seriously and aren't actually putting the data of their attendees and their business at risk? Is there anything that they can kind of ask them, or a way that they can ask them
Yeah.
to kind of sense check them on that?
Yeah, I would uh, definitely ask every supplier to provide their, data protection policies. Also, just to understand, what is the state of the infrastructure they use, how data is shared, and especially if they are involved with any third parties in, the delivering of the service. And that's why a lot of people consider having, data protection agreements, to do all of this. But I think asking for the right documentation, and that's why at the end of the presentation I was saying, don't be afraid to ask questions. I think a lot of people, because they don't understand or they don't have the technical knowledge, they think, oh, I should just trust the platform. But they should really look for the evidence. And of course, one of the things that we do ourselves in our systems is that we're constantly running penetration tests, risk analysis, and other assessments. And we can show our clients, what has been the result of those tests. So, if you're testing your platform very often, it means that you're striving for better security. So, yeah.
Excellent, mate. Thank you very much for coming and presenting at Event Tech Live US and Canada on this subject, one that I'm really passionate about, and I'm sure many other people are really interested to make sure that they're approaching cybersecurity in the right way. For any of the attendees that want to connect up with Johnny, please do reach out to him on the platform. That wraps us up to the end of this session. Johnny, thanks once again, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you. Take care, guys.